Dear Diary, he says I'm a star, but he's my guiding light. With him I'm supported, a step closer to reaching my dreams. I could be his star, but he'll be my sun. Together we'll aspire, for we're each other's reward in life.
Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan here today with the last video in our Moon in the Houses Synastry overlay. And today we're going to be looking at Moon in Partner's 10th house. So if you are not familiar with synastry and you're not really sure how to get a synastry chart done with a particular love interest, I have made 2 videos in guiding you through that. So I'll leave a link to those 2 videos up above and the description box below as well, so you can check that out before you watch this video if you're not familiar with synastry. So the Moon in a synastry house overlay is going to show an area of the house person's life where the Moon would like to nurture. This is a meeting up of the 2 people's sort of insecurities, their irrationalities, their fears, as well as their security needs. The intuitive natures of the house person's particular area of life is going to be provoked by the Moon person's Moon being there. So this is where the 2 people are going to be meeting up on a heartfelt level, heart connection, rather than the mind connection or the ego even. So the 10th house has that vibe of the midheaven. It's where we are very public, the most public house of all. It's our aspirations. It's the kind of career that we would like to build for ourselves so that we can reach our calling in life and who we want to become in life, and the contributions we want to make to the world. So when the Moon comes into the house person's 10th house, the Moon person can kind of intuitively sense or smell, shall we say, the house person's aspirations in life and what they want to achieve, and what kind of reputation the house person would like to build for themselves. The suggestions, the advice, and the support of the Moon person is going to greatly help the house person. The house person is generally going to view the Moon person, at least in this aspect of the relationship, as beneficial, as even having this co-worker vibe to benefit them in the professional life and in their achievements. If the Moon person's Moon is in a more impersonal moon sign or a more detached moon sign, like if it's an Aquarius or Capricorn or even Sagittarius, you know, the signs that kind of rules the 9th, 10th, and 11th more public houses, the Moon person's Moon can kind of be okay, not too uncomfortable here. They can kind of have this sense of, okay, that's just what needs to be done for the house person, and we got to get things done in the world. If the Moon person's Moon is a little bit more private or personal, this is not the greatest, or it's not going to feel so great for the Moon person. Generally, the house person is going to feel that the Moon person acts kind of like a parental figure. They have that more mature vibe about them, that they can assist the house person and have to kind of push them to achieve their goals. So if the Moon person's Moon is making a hard aspect, like maybe a square to Pluto, this is going to bring up some difficulties because the Moon person, because the Moon is coming into a public house, and the Moon Pluto people need closeness and intimacy in relationships, but they may not really be getting too much of that depending on other things in the chart with this placement. And so because Pluto is a very subtle kind of manipulative force in all of us, the Moon person may, if they're not dealing with their own Pluto, do things that can kind of damage the house person's reputation or kind of manipulate the house person to becoming more of a homebody, so that the house person, you know, puts their attention to the more private world or private part of the relationship. The 10th house is our most public house, and there can be, for all moon signs, some moons are going to be more okay with that. in a sense that it's going to be a little bit harder for these two people, for you guys, if you have this with a particular love interest, to connect very deeply and intimately, because the style of the 10th house is very outward directed to the public world. There's sort of a mismatch here. Kind of like you're trying to throw a ball into a hoop, but it's just not getting into that hoop, because the moon rules the 4th house, the opposite axis of the 10th house. But there are ways that we can work with this one. So if you are having this overlay in a relationship and you are the moon person, or maybe you're the house person, but the moon person, if they feel that they're kind of missing something, missing a nurturing, missing their comfort zones and things like that, what the house person can do is that the house person can kind of show some appreciation for the moon person. And what generally tends to happen with this placement is that the house person may actually be able to bring the moon person with them into the public life, meaning that, let's say the house person owns a business. They may be able to, you know, bring the moon to the office and kind of introduce the moon to their colleagues, to their employees, and then the moon person kind of will feel a little bit more appreciated and seen. Even though it's not in a private setting, it at least fulfills something in the moon person. Or maybe, let's say the house person is, if the house person is like a teacher, right? And they can bring the moon person and introduce them to their students, and maybe they invite the moon person as a speaker. And the house person actually likes this. They have this way of thinking that the moon person brings comfort to their public life. So it's easy for the house person to kind of drag the moon person into that sphere of life for the house person. So I actually have this with a friend of mine. So my moon is in her 10th house, and because my moon's in Cancer, so I'm not really comfortable actually to tell her things about my private life. I mean, from time to time I would, but within the time frame that we've known each other, and that's a very long time, I probably told her something very private about myself like twice at most, something like that, because it's just when I do, she has this way of, this Capricorn way of coming at the moon. So it's like a little bit more sensible, or geared towards the outer world, kind of an advice that doesn't meet me emotionally. But she has her own office, so she starts a company with another friend, and she invites me there to work there. And so when I do, you know, there's this sense of, there's this Cancerian energy in her office. And I kind of like that, right? Because my moon's in Cancer. So I can connect with her and feel at home with her in her career space or in her public space. I hope that's kind of making sense, guys. So the ultimate theme of this pairing, with the moon being in partner's 10th house, is ultimately for the house person to be aware of how others' support can help them to attain their goals, and how to be grateful for that. But also at the same time, for the house person to be aware of how their reputation and their status in the world can be of benefit to other people. So that is my take on Moon in Partner's 10th house. If you have this with a particular love interest, do comment below what your experiences have been. I do birth chart readings, synastry, and relationship readings. All the information is on my website. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't. If you already subscribed, then thank you very much for always coming along on these astrology videos. Yeah, so that's it for today, guys. Have a beautiful day. Bye.